The Bills have found their secret weapon. A recent report from an NFL analyst stated a positive thing each team has gained this offseason. For the Bills, it's their defense, which has gone through many changes from new draft picks to trades, cuts, and free agents joining. Since the Bills have such a strong offense, these defensive moves during the offseason could be that missing piece for the Super Bowl win. My name is Maeve Miller, and I'm a part of the Bills Digest team, so please subscribe to our Bills Digest YouTube channel. Starting off, I want to talk about the new defensive additions to the team because there has been a lot so far. And just to reference that article, that report that I was mentioned, this is from Dalton Wasserman, who is an NFL analyst, and he said Buffalo spent most of its offseason trying to improve a defense that finished 28th in PFF grade last season. The Bills used free agency to bolster the defensive line with Michael Hoyt, Larry Ogunjobi, and Joey Bosa. Further complementing that set of players up front are recent draft picks TJ Sanders, Landon Jackson, and Deanne Walker. So it's definitely is a good overview of what the Bills have kind of done with that defensive line. But when it comes to draft picks, the Bills definitely focused on the defense. They drafted Maxwell Hairston in the first round as a cornerback. And yes, I think the two main parts the Bills are looking to work on is the secondary and the defensive line. And with both those things working, that could be a huge factor in this coming season. So like I said, yeah, Maxwell Hairston, the cornerbacks, and the secondary was definitely struggling a little bit. So I feel like we filled that cornerback void a little bit with someone like Dorian Strong as well. They brought in a couple other guys, but the safety position is also lacking a little bit. As of right now, Taylor Rapp would be a starter, and the second spot is up maybe DeMar Hamlin or Cole Bishop, who is coming off a second year. Another player that they brought in is Derek Forrest, who's a little bit of a veteran, but more of a quiet kind of player, and they're hoping maybe, if it's a competition, he could fight it out for that second position, or he'll be like a good mentor to the younger players, because Bishop and Rapp are relatively young. But yeah, the other factor they've been kind of working on is strengthening that defensive line. They added Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi, but something that's a little bit interesting about this is that these two players were both suspended for PED use and are out the first 6 games of the season. So this is definitely a huge factor, and the timing of this and having 2 players, not just one, has been kind of hard. And McDermott was quoted on this. He was talking about how the mini camps have been going, because he's saying that those 2 are playing well, but he said then you have to, in your mind, subtract those 2 out and then see what you're left with, who needs to get those reps and who needs to develop from a young player standpoint as well. It's almost like 2 different depth charts this time of year until we get through both those suspensions. So it is kind of hard to get an idea of what the defensive line might look like, considering that the first 6 games that these 2 players will not be participating in, they still can participate in mini camp and training camp, so they'll get those reps in, but it definitely is interesting. The other player that was mentioned a lot is Joey Bosa, who people did warn the Bills about drafting because he's such an injury-prone player. And what did he do? Minicamp, get injured. So that's definitely tough to see, as the Bills have struggled with injuries a lot on the defense especially. But I like Bosa's attitude so far. He's talking about how he's excited to kind of mix up positions and maybe more of an edge rusher this time. So I'm excited to see what Bosa can do if he gets healthy, but it's just hard because the one flaw about him was that he can't stay healthy. He's such a good player, and that, in minicamp, he already got hurt. So that's definitely tough to see, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks he can get stronger, get healthier, and the defensive line will just be looking good all around. But next I talked about the additions, but I want to talk about some of the losses during the offseason. This is just on the defensive side. I'd say the most major one was probably Von Miller. He's a huge veteran, so well known in the league. He's won with the Broncos, won with the Rams, and then on the Bills. He's definitely gotten older, and he's battled a lot of injuries. He tore his ACL while on the Bills, and he managed to come back from that, which is just impressive in itself, as he is, in his 30s, and he's not, in his prime anymore. I always liked Von Miller, but I feel like there was issues on the field and off the field. Like, his performance was going down, and there were a lot of things happening in public that weren't always great. So I don't think this was a huge loss. I was hoping that players like Joey Bosa would be able to replace him. Obviously, the injury's not so sure. But I thought Von Miller, for not being in his prime, did a very good job with the Bills, and it is a little sad to see him go. Also with that, we had Micah Hyde retire. He came out of retirement, and then joined the Bills practice squad, and I just feel like he was just part of that group of him, Jordan Poyer, and Tre'Davious White that just made such an impact for the Bills, and I think it was nice having him come back. Was a practice player during the Bills playoff run. I think it was nice to see him on the sidelines, and he just loved Buffalo. Going off of that, we also brought back Tre'Davious White, who has also got a little bit older, and I feel like after his injuries with the Bills, He tore his ACL and then tore his Achilles. He never really made it back. And obviously, you had those two major injuries. That's not surprising. But I think it was definitely hard to see because he's just people don't say enough about his character. That's all. He's such a good player, but what I see most people talking about how good of a guy he is and how much he loved Buffalo. McDermott speaks so highly of him. So I'm excited to have him back, even though, yeah, he's not, they're going to be their flashiest best player, but I think it's nice having a veteran that kind of knows what they're doing out there. Another defensive loss was Elam. He was traded, and I felt like to the Panthers, this was also a good move because they drafted him in the first round, and it was kind of a disappointment. Christian Benford, in contrast, was drafted 5 rounds later, and actually managed to outplay Elam for that position. Who he also got a huge contract extension, well deserved. But I think it was kind of tough that we wasted a first round draft pick on Elam when there was really not much to show for it. And he kind of made a jab at the Bills. He said, the Panthers is an environment he's never been a part of. It's just the best environment ever. So I guess if he's happy with the Panthers, that's fine with me because he really didn't do well in the Bills. And I'm glad that Benford stepped up, thank God. But this was not something that I was mad about. And they traded for a couple draft picks and were able to maybe get players like Harrison, who they might not have if they were a little bit lower in that order. And then lastly, I just want to talk about some of the offensive changes just as an overview. There's definitely been a lot of focus on the wide receivers. These are two of the players that they added, Joshua Palmer as a former Charger and Elijah Moore, who was formerly on the Cleveland Browns. And it's funny that these two players and Joey Bosa all went to the same high school, so these two already have kind of a bond, which is nice coming in. And I thought there's going to be a lot of healthy competition, which is good. I mean, all the players are working for that spot, and we have Khalil Shakir. He's kind of locked down that top spot with huge contract extension and $53 million. So I'm excited that he's locked down that number one spot, but I feel like the second spot or the third spot are all kind of up in the air. We have Keon Coleman and Curtis Samuel, who I assume will start over someone like Joshua Palmer or Eli Moore, but you never really know how this will go in the training camp. Yeah, also the Bills did lose wide receiver Matt Collins. He signed with the Patriots, and he's joining another former Bill, Stephon Diggs. And honestly, those two players were a little bit... I thought Matt Collins was hilarious, but I feel like he was a little bit hot-headed sometimes, so I feel like maybe that was a better choice. And then lastly, Amari Cooper, who he made kind of a quiet impact for the Bills. He's used to being a big-time player, but he very much followed that everybody eats mantra, which not everybody will. That's so I feel like some players like that Bills mantra. Others like Stephon Diggs don't really. And yeah, so his contract was up and he's currently a free agent. And I feel like there's a lot that's going to happen, a lot of reshuffling in the wide receiver room. And I'm definitely interested to see who kind of steps up in that role. I'd love to see, Josh Palmer, Eli Moore battle it out. And there's also... We signed Christian Wilkerson, so there's a lot kind of going on with that. Depth chart is very loose, McDermott always says this time of year. So I'm just excited to see these changes. Like that report said, that if that defense gets a little bit better, and they really have been making so many moves during the offseason, draft, trades, cuts, I think that the Bills can definitely step this up. I'm hoping that, the safeties get a little bit stronger. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think about the defense and what other moves maybe can be made, or if you think that the defense won't be as strong this year. Let me know in the comments below. But for now, thanks for watching, and go Bills.